Fact 1. Based on an actual breakup. Holland's actual teenage life provided the entire premise. Back when he was in high school, his girlfriend ended their relationship to date the ski team captain. That particular stinging rejection stayed with him for years, and that is precisely when he decided to turn it into the backbone of Better Off Dead. Lane Meyer's humiliation, his clumsy attempts at revenge, and his awkward recovery all trace back to Holland sitting with authentic heartbreak. He decided to make something funny out of it instead of letting it fester. Such a personal detail injected an emotional honesty that pure invention rarely manages to produce, which is why the picture never feels like a hollow joke, even at its most absurd. She sent cookies. 6 years after release, the woman who inspired the whole story tracked Holland down by phone. She told him she had watched the picture and had no idea how deeply the breakup hurt him back then. After hanging up, she mailed him a box of cookies as an apology. She sent cookies rather than a card, a formal letter, or flowers. Holland has shared this story publicly over the years, and it carries the same quality as his work, remaining peculiar, slightly absurd, and far more tender than it has any right to be. A simple box of baked goods served as the final chapter of real-life heartbreak, proving that reality often outpaces fiction. John Cusack played Lane Meyer with just the kind of exhausted sincerity the role needed, but his feelings about the finished product were much cooler. When Holland arranged an early screening for him, Cusack walked out before the credits rolled. He reportedly told Holland directly that it was the worst thing he had ever watched, vowing never to trust him as a filmmaker again. That harsh reaction stung badly, and Holland remains candid about how difficult that moment felt. Fortunately, this tale has a reasonable ending. Cusack's opinion slightly mellowed over the ensuing years as he eventually came to acknowledge the film's fans and its cult status, though he famously maintained his dislike for the final cut for decades. "I want my $2" became one of the most repeated lines from any 1980s feature, and Holland did not invent it from scratch. An actual paperboy named Johnny used to visit his house to collect payment for a newspaper subscription. That kid's persistence, showing up repeatedly regardless of weather or polite attempts to delay him, wore on Holland enough that the memory stayed sharp. On screen, this fictional version attacks the main character with a ferocity that only makes sense if the original experience left a lasting mark. True annoyance, channeled carefully, produced a memorable running gag. Playing the paperboy on screen, Damian Slade was only 12 years old during production. He approached his duties with intense seriousness, treating the character as a legitimate villain rather than a prop, which provides the perfect energy to make the gag work. During the car wash sequence, Slade threw a rolled newspaper at Lane's windshield with enough force to shatter the physical glass on impact. Nobody on set planned for that outcome, but the broken windshield looked so convincingly chaotic on camera that they kept it without trying to fix it. A 12-year-old threw a paper too hard and accidentally improved the scene. Henry Winkler, familiar from his years on television playing the Fonz on Happy Days, helped get the project off the ground, and played a quiet role in shaping the cast, even though he did not officially produce the film. Executives held serious reservations about putting John Cusack in the lead, but Winkler used his industry standing to advocate for him and push the decision forward. Such behind-the-scenes support rarely gets discussed once a project succeeds, yet it matters greatly while production is still taking shape. Without Winkler's backing, the movie's defining dynamic might have belonged to a distinctly different actor. During the school dance sequence, a girl performs on stage, and that singer is E.G. Daly. She brought a particular brightness to the moment that caught people's attention, even if most viewers could not name her afterward. She later channeled that quality into a long and busy career working in recording booths. Years later, she voiced several notable characters, reaching millions of kids who simply knew her distinct tone from their television screens. Those children had no idea she once played a small role in a winter comedy, connecting two very different audiences years apart through her distinctive voice. Fact 8. The hamburger wins. One highly unusual visual moment involves a clay hamburger that picks up a guitar and performs a rock song while Lane works his shift at a fast food restaurant. Nothing about that scene represents a safe creative choice. Before the picture opened to the public, producers ran test screenings to measure how audiences responded. When viewers ranked their favorite moments, the singing hamburger placed first. Out of everything offered, including the ski race, the romance, and the recurring Paperboy, a 1-minute interlude ended up being what stayed with people most. Those expensive production elements lost to a clay burger playing guitar. Fact 9. Curtis Armstrong. Curtis Armstrong played Charles, Lane's best friend and occasional co-conspirator. The script positions him as a fellow high school student who has somehow been stuck in the same building for an implausibly long time. Better Off Dead even builds a small joke around this detail, letting other characters acknowledge it with mild confusion. In hindsight, that joke carries a sharp edge because Armstrong was 30 years old during production. He played the role convincingly enough that audiences accepted a grown man as a high schooler without pausing to question it. This achievement speaks either to his commitment as a performer or to how rarely anyone in a teen movie actually looks like a teenager.
Diane Franklin played Monique, the French exchange student, with a warmth and ease making her believable from her very first appearance. What the audience watching that performance had no way of knowing is that Franklin spoke no French at all. Every single line she delivered in that language was learned phonetically by listening to recordings and matching the sounds, entirely without understanding their meaning. She studied the way syllables connected and reproduced them precisely enough to convince viewers she grew up speaking the language naturally. Her performance easily holds up on rewatching, proving the effectiveness of her unusual preparation method. Fact 11. The voice replacement. One recurring character is a young racing competitor who taught himself English solely by listening to famous television broadcasters, producing a highly distinctive pattern of speech. On set, the performer delivered his lines with careful preparation and serious investment in getting things right. Producers later decided to replace his voice in post-production. Rich Little, a Canadian impressionist who built his career mimicking public figures, came in and recorded the dialogue. Those new recordings went into the finished cut in place of the original audio, leaving a credited actor whose voice never actually appears in the final project. Fact 12. The Lost Camaro. Lane drives a black 1967 Chevrolet Camaro throughout the story, and the car became nearly as recognizable as the characters surrounding it. After production wrapped, the physical vehicle quietly changed hands and vanished from traceable records. For years, nobody in the community could say with certainty where it had gone. Eventually, a devoted fan located the exact vehicle, confirmed its identity through original production paperwork, purchased it, and spent significant time and money returning it to its former glory. That kind of dedication tracking down a prop car from a classic movie long after its release says something revealing about the hold this picture maintains on the people who truly love it. Better Off Dead opened in theaters in August of 1985, earned mixed notices, and then built its audience quietly over the years that followed, just the way the best cult favorites do. Every seemingly bizarre choice on screen stemmed directly from chaotic, unfiltered human experience, rather than a corporate boardroom. The production embraced those rough edges instead of polishing them away, allowing the film to continue resonating with fans today by reflecting the weird, messy details of life.